right? First, we have to learn about the basic concepts of ICT. The first is about, so we should know about data and information and their features basically, and type of data and the features of data. So those are the things that we are going to learn now under this chapter. And so I just asked from you, okay, so what is data basically? What is data? Data. What do you mean by data?
Unorganized information.
Unorganized information. Data means basically raw facts about someone, some concept or some information. It's raw facts about someone, something, or some concept. So we call data. Raw facts about something, someone, or some concept we call data. And information, example, you can say red. So what is information? In the other hand, information.
Organized data.
Information means organized data. You can say information means, let's say,
Meaningful data.
yes, process data or meaningful data or organized data. Process data or meaningful data. So that is the basic idea. You should know about data and information, processed data or meaningful data. Example, you can say these days popular topic, red data book. Red means like you can say it's a color, but when it comes to red data book, it's not about a color, it's about vulnerable or endangered species.
So data, sir. They you have written as date.
Data, yes, it's data. Okay, so do you need to write down this or is it okay?
Sir,
So can you remember?
two more like 1 minute.
Okay, right. Under that, you should also know the comparison between data and information. You should know. So the data. So basically, data is less. Data carries less mean, no, mean less meaningful. And information, you can say it's more meaningful. And when it comes to data, it's less valuable. It's valuable. So, for an example, color like red. So it's not much valuable, but information is always is valuable. And so one important thing is, so data cannot be used for decision making. But information, in the other hand, it can be used for decision making. So if you have information, like for an example, election results is information. What is data? You can say what is data is what you can't use to do much things. What, but when votes are collected and information is produced, that is election results. So you can get decisions. Even rulers are selected based on this. So it's useful in decision making. And so there's one thing. So this is not an action motivate. What is action motivate? Action motivate. What do you mean by action motivator?
To take an action.
Yeah, so it's basically okay. Let's say you got a news saying today we have a power cut, full day power cut. So that led you decide what to do today. Maybe not to plan like online classes or not to plan some activities which uses power, or maybe use that day for a trip or something else, or maybe moving out from the home to another place which has power. Likewise, it's action motivator. ක්‍රියාවකට කොළඹවනවා කියලා කියනවා. You have to, so when information is there, it's helpful in decision making as well as it's motivating you to take an action. And another thing is data, it's basically the value is consistent over time. Over time. Value is consistent over time. But information has a time value, meaning, so mean maybe if you take data, okay, let's take the same example, right? 20 years back, value of red is still the same. Value of red is still the same. After 20 years, in future also, the value of red will be the same. It's not changing. It's consistent over the time. But so you can see value of red data book before 5,000 years ago, value of red data book now, and value of red data book in another 5,000 years. It's not the same. It's not the same, right? So it's changing. The value is changing over the time. Or you can say time, it has a time value. And as you said, data unorganized and information organized. So this is basic comparison about data and information. I think better you write down if you need anything additionally, or you can take a screenshot also, but prefer if you can write down, because that is the way to remember this, no? And this,
So after class we'll write, sir.
right, okay. So that is up to you. But anyway, when I ask next day, you should remember about these things. So that is my expectation, and that is the expectation. It's not actually my expectation, but examiner's point of view, that is the expectation from you. You take the pen stream, but after class, if you're not going to write this, then what will happen? Next day, you won't remember that, right? That is up to you. So be honest and write down that. Okay, so then you can say the time value. You can create small draft based on this time value. You can see the creation time, it has highest value, but with the time, it's diminishing. With the time, it's diminishing closer to zero. This is called golden rule of information, right? This is called golden rule of information. Basically, information has its highest value at the creation time. So for an example, think about election results. So it's common in Sri Lanka. So that's why I'm taking that as example. Maybe not a good example, but I'm taking it. So let's say people in Sri Lanka, basically they used to celebrate the election by even eating kiribat and all these things just after the election results, just immediately after the election results. They will maybe use fireworks to celebrate, and maybe so milk rice to celebrate, likewise parties and all these things are happening just
Those days.
in the just in the
After.
day, particular day, or exam, when exam results released.
Good
So
example.
yeah, highest value is in the releasing time, but after some time it's not a big thing. So maybe your scholarship results now has no value at, it's having no value. Grade
Good
5
idea,
scholarship
right?
exam
Scholarship.
results now, right? Because it was earlier useful to select school, but not now. Why now do you need to show it in interview? No one will ask that, right? The time value has diminished. So after diminishing, you can use this information again as data, right? Maybe so you can say there was an exam called scholarship, grade 5 scholarship on those days, and as I remember, I got this kind of mark. That is data. It has become data. It's not information. So maybe grade 5 scholarship results in 2005 is just a figure in a table. That was information earlier, but now it has become a figure in a table, which is again data. So that's why we have something called abstract model of information, where data is processed and produced information. With the time, value will be diminishing to the zero, and with the time, this information will become data again. So this is common in everything, even life, it's common. So human beings or animals or plants created using cells. So cells carefully processed, and then the particular species or particular animal or human being or anyone so will be created. So basically it's by processing data, either by God or either by mother or someone has processed data, and you got the information, that is you. And but after some time, so what will happen? The environmentally, naturally, you will be diminishing back to the zero by the nature. Maybe after 100 years, you are not there. Back to cells, or back to elementary. So back to the elementary things like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. You will divide back to the elementary thing that you have created. Right? That is anyway common for the information, data process and information is created, and with the time it will be again become the data. And to do that, we have information systems. To do that, we have information systems. The process of information system is capturing data, processing, and producing information. Okay, do you need to take a screenshot of this? So,
Okay, sir.
okay.
So no, you have to scroll down a bit in order to this.
Yeah,
Yeah, from abstract maybe. Okay.
okay. Right. Information system is basically responsible for capturing data, processing, and producing output. In addition to that, you can say it capture data, memorize, and represent data, then process data, store data, and output
Look at the output.
data and information, and communicate. Those are the functions of communication. Communicate. These are the functions of information system. So basically it captures, memorize, and represent, process, store, output, and communicate. These are the basic functions of information system. You represent that by just three things: input, process, output, but still you can write this using more components like this. Okay, then next is you should know what is a system. What is a system? Right? System, you can say system is like, so for an example, digestive system is a system. So it has a lot of components. So one main feature, it has a lot of components, a set of components. And those are working together. That is also very important. A set of components. Digestive system has mouth, throat, maybe stomach, and there are many other components helping that. So anyway, those are working together. Those are working together to achieve a common goal. So those are having a common goal, which is digestion. Similar to that in information system. So there's a common goal, that is information processing. Similar to that, computer system is actually, it's also information system. The common goal of that is electronic data processing. It also has set of components working together to achieve this common goal, right? Okay. So then that is also information system, right? Basic components of the computer system. You can say the basic components are hardware, software, and liveware. Without looking at that, can you tell me what are hardware, what are software, and what's liveware? So without looking at,
Hardware means which we can touch it.
yeah, then tangible equipments of the computer system we call hardware. Then software.
Which we can't touch it.
Programs.
You have to tell more than that. You are in A level.
Programs.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like like a, a word file without printed and with printed.
But that is
Then
like,
printed is
so you can
tangible.
explain that in O levels maybe, but not in A levels. A levels, you have to explain this further, right?
There is the like
Yes. Here,
connection
intangible
between
instructions, programs, right?
mm,
Intangible instructions. Here, what is that? Instructions. Intangible instructions. Related data structures and documentation. Intangible instructions, related data structures and documentation. That is co-software, right? So this is in A levels. The instructions are there, the related data structures are there, as well as documentation is there. So maybe let's explain this using MS Word. Intangible instructions are, those are telling computer to do something, insert in a picture, drawing something, designing, changing the layout. That is because of instructions. But whatever stored here, like insert shapes, the stored things here, these are not instructions. These are actually the data structures. So some example for data structure. Likewise, you have some stored components, icons, shapes, tables. These are structures. And not only that, if you need, you can get a help. You can get a help how to use this here. You can see here in the when you press help or when you just search in the document, so it will be searching. But so when you press help F1, you will get manual how to use this. Or when you get over or when you get on top of some element, here you can see a tooltip text is showing. Tooltip, that is belongs to documentation. පේනව නේද? මේ එකක් උඩට ගියාම පොඩි ටෙක්ස්ට් එකක් පෙන්නනවා. saying home, saying save, saying undo, saying can't repeat, saying printing. Likewise, when you go top of some element, it explains what it does. So that is part of documentation. And in addition to that, you have help. And in addition to that, if you buy a software, you will get a manual. Right? All these are belongs to software. Right. Liveware means people who use. Okay. So first of all, we should know how computer hardware components are working. How computer hardware components are working. That is called block diagram of the computer system. Right. Block diagram of the computer system. That is showing how components of the computer hardware are working together. So can you tell me inputs after capturing where it goes? After capturing input, where it goes? Input in computer. Yes, after capturing, where will be this information or data?
Go to its CPU.
CPU.
Oh, main CPU.
So okay, I'll give you
No,
example.
cache memory.
Cache memory. Huh?
No.
The main memory.
Main
Primary.
memory. Main memory.
Primary.
Yeah, it's main memory because when you say okay, 3 plus 5, it's 8. Right? Then if I say like 3 plus 5 into 2 divided by 10, multiply by 15, add in 2 to that and divide again by 8. Now you can't tell the answer because it is too long. But you will still understand when I tell that lengthier one. So the problem is not with your CPU, problem is not with the calculation, problem with not with the input to output, the problem with the memory. Because memory is not capable of remembering that long thing. If memory is not enough, what we can do? If memory is not enough, what we can do?
We can increase the memory.
So, okay, so for an example, that lengthier one, if I give a lengthy calculation, what you're going to do?
We'll be making it shorter.
Can you increase the memory?
Of the PC.
No. Inside you.
Clear the cache for 10.
No. Forget about that. Think about you. If I give a lengthy calculation, what you're going to do? Are you going to
We'll
increase
be
your memory?
solving it.
Sorry?
Writing it down.
Writing it down. That's simple. Writing it down. That is called storage. Right? If you don't have if you don't have enough memory, since memory has limitations, what you can do is you can store it. For later, you can open and check one by one. Take part by part to the memory. So that is called paging and swapping. Anyway, we will learn in operating systems, not now. because this is fundamentals. So we will store in the storage and take part by part. So that's how you solve the question, no? මුළු එකම ලියාගෙන කෑල්ලෙන් කෑල්ලනේ ඔයාලා solve කරන්නේ. So that is called storage, saving and opening. So in computer also you can use that. So I think this one you have to write down because this is like a very important thing, because then I'm going to give some exercises over there. That's why. So please write down, this is how your computer hardware components are going to work. So this is called logical diagram or the block diagram, sometimes called logical diagram, right? This you have to draw because I'm going to give some questions now just to see whether you understood this process or not. Okay, please write down this, the logical diagram. Draw this, right? Logical diagram or the block diagram of computer. Right, these are the components. RAM means random access memory, which is also called dynamic RAM. ROM, read-only memory. And CPU, I'll explain one by one. Central processing unit, ALU, arithmetic and logical unit. CU, control unit. Cache is a high-speed memory, static RAM. And registers is also high-speed memory, is also static RAM. And so when compare this normal RAM, dynamic RAM and static RAM, you can say SRAM is faster and DRAM can be replaceable. It's a separate unit. But SRAM cannot be replaced. Cache and registers you can't replace. Cost of SRAM is very high and DRAM can be. So cost of SRAM is very high and replacing is not possible unless if you replace processor, SRAM cannot be replaced. Okay, so these are the things. So I'll explain one by one, but before that, I just want you to understand the concept behind this logical diagram. Okay, so can you tell me this? Number one, type in a letter and type in a letter and take a printout after saving. So what will happen, right? So just what will happen? Type in a letter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turning into hardware.
Yes. You have to explain this using hardware, like input using
Input.
keyboard.
Yeah, using keyboard.
Then that will
Then
go to the main memory.
main memory. Primary
Then
memory.
what will happen? It will go to the CPU because it should be processed. Even a letter should be processed as maybe formatting, whatever. It will go to the CPU, and from CPU you can get processed data out, and those will come back to the main memory. The things that come in to the main memory should be saved to storage, no, secondary storage, because here it's saying you have to save it, right? Secondary storage. Then you have to open back. Here save to secondary storage. Open back to the main memory and send to the output. So this is what happening when you are doing this operation. So you type a letter and print out, take a printout, but it's like big thing. It's a big process to the computer. You have to take the input and capture it by using your memory and then CPU and process those data, and then involvement of main memories again there to save this, and then open it back to the main memory, and finally you have to send it to the output device, which is the printer. Okay, likewise, so explain this to calculate average using Excel. So I'll do another one, that is install software uh, by downloading it. Then next one, install driver software to newly connected hardware. Right. Then uninstall a software. Then turn on the computer and log in to the user account. So can you please write down the steps related to these things? So heading, what will happen inside the computer? What will happen inside the computer? Then please write down these things and try to explain each. So don't write big sentences, just write one by one, the steps, only the steps. Then if there are mistakes, we can correct. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. Just give a try.
Okay, sir.